learn to look a block ahead. It's not the shit right in front of you. They done stopped. You got to look a block ahead. Those are the kind of things you learn from senior officers. Look ahead. You see that? He didn't just shake his hand. He handed him something. Excuse me. Damn allergies, man. So, he handed him something. And you see the guy walking back and he has money in his hand. He's counting it,
Yeah.
It's about connecting the dots.
Right.
Don't create one. Because we see what happens when you create them.
Get jammed up.
Get jammed up. But, I think you guys spoke to a gentleman about some people that created some dots a little while ago. So,
there's a reason why we're here.
Yeah.
We didn't create shit. We created a podcast.
yeah, there you go. So it was always connect the dots, do not create a dot, and that's a skill set. What you see, articulate it. And go from A to B to C to D.
Right.
Do not skip, because if you skip, then you're looking at a Fourth Amendment violation.
Absolutely.
So yeah, but it does take time to learn it, but you have to have, like I said, you have to be able to understand when you're being told, hey, you see that guy up there, he's a lookout. Hey, that guy probably has the pack on him. This guy probably has the gun. Well, how do you know that? Well, this guy keeps grabbing his dip. We've circled the block 3 times. Every time we do it, he turns away from us.
Doing security checks.
Oh, he's the one with the gun. This guy, body language. Yeah, it's body language is huge.
Gotcha.
Then you get a unit like that, right? And then you get a unit like when we work together.
Yeah,
we had some monsters on the unit, a lot of experience, and for some reason we just couldn't produce. I think we got like 1 gun maybe.
Yeah, we got
like 1 time on the Eastern.
Yeah,
and it's like we had good guys. He's a drug guy. We had 2 wheelmen, Pedro, beast behind the wheel.
Yep.
We had a bruiser, Henry, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, and I'm, what we doing?
Right.
And then who else was with us?
At that point,
I think the dude that's I don't want to say his name. He's in homicide now.
Yes.
Yeah. So and he had a ton of experience.
Yeah.
It's like we were hitting the pavement so hard.
Yep. So hard. I mean, but
and we couldn't get nothing.
Shit just
couldn't
happens.
get nothing.
I mean, it just happens.
That's how it is sometimes when you play the drug game.
Yeah.
One day, the house is fat, or like, and then you're just, that car, this person, look at this. And it's like.
Yeah. I mean, we hit that house out in the county, and I got an SKS. Remember, and then that was. When you work in Baltimore County, and you're asking their SWAT team to do something, and you ask their SWAT team to do something, your shit better be in order. Because they analyze the shit out of our warrants, out of our risk assessments, everything. So I remember during the brief, they're like, hey, we're just going to bang the door in with the Bearcat, which is the tactical vehicle. They're like, we're going to put the Ram on the front, bang the door, and call them out. We're not sending our SWAT team down these steps, because as you come down the steps, you button the hook left, and that's where his bedroom is. Well, that's where the informant said his SKS is. So an SKS is kind of like an AK-47, but
like lighter.
Yeah, like a Chinese version type deal, or whatever. I'm not
German. I think
something. I'm not the biggest gun guy, ironically. So yeah, people always were like, "What the hell?"
Being a gunner, you're not the big gun guy.
I mean, in the Army, yeah, but see, the thing with that is every time you shoot the damn thing,
you're right. Chinese weapon.
Yeah, it's ugly as hell. I never like
56 XK.
So,
but if you see that on the street,
Russian too.
That shit gives you chills because that'll rip through your vest.
Yeah.
Anything
Chinese
you
and
see
a
in the
Russian.
streets like that.
That like that, you see.
Yeah,
No.
and they got a Chinese version.
So I remember my buddy was like, "Man, you better hope your CI's right because they're about to do a whole different operation based off this intel."
Wow.
Luckily, it was in there, but I was like, "Oh shit!"
Dang.
That shit's huge.
Yeah,
That'll rip through some shit, man.
But you know what we say? The song says connect the dots. What I always say. That's your probable cause.
Yep.
Connecting the dots before you get to that individual.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you get to that individual and you got to think about what the fuck you locking them up for, that's a problem.
Absolutely.
You should already know
Mm-hmm.
in your head. You already wrote it down mentally. What I got him for. What's my probable cause? What did I see him do?
Mm-hmm.
You got everything sketched out in your head before you put cuffs on the individual. If you don't have that and you're just running just to run, just to get in the rest for stats, you fucked up.
Yeah, you're in a world of hurt.
Absolutely.
To add to what H is saying, like, you know, people see police officers like it's a thinking game also, like what he just said. You gotta have the mental fortitude that if I know I'm gonna get into this foot chase, you gotta know what block you're on and what time did it start, because it's part of the report.
Yeah.
And what did you observe, like he said. So by the time I get you, in your head, you already know what time. Sometimes now, you know, they want to know what was the weather like.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
What's the weather like? When I report to a shooting, I have to do a mental note like it was sunny, 70 degrees.
Yeah, it all plays a part.
But now this guy has a gun though, and you're chasing the guy with the gun.
Wow.
You gotta remember, you know,
In the street, say you're on patrol.
Mm-hmm.
If you say this car's not stopping, shift commander, what are you stopping that car for? If you can't say what you stopping them for, stand down, let the car go.
Yep.
you better not be like,
If you're quiet,
Mm-hmm.
it's about to get real ugly for you in a minute. Cause he or she's only gonna say this shit once or twice.
Mm-hmm.
All right, KT, what do you got? What's that unit following that car for? What does he have? If you don't say nothing, you still you're done.
Mm.
if you be like, he's still traveling eastbound, yeah, cut it off.
Yeah.
Cut it the fuck
Stop
off.
playing.
Now, up until we've gotten this tightened policy,
There you go. Tell him.
we used to be able to be like, oh yeah, possible armed person, and that would get you a few blocks.
It would.
Mm-hmm.
That'll
That'll get you a couple minutes.
That would get you, yeah. That would
Yes.
get you a little bit. Now,
What?
hell no. They're like, what, a gun? Oh, it's just a misdemeanor. But he's probably prohibited. That's a felony.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
You better see his ass shooting, huh?
Yeah.
And I see the rounds
It's
on
all,
the ground.
It's
not
all in how you articulate what you have.
Word.
But piggybacking real quick on talking about the different roles and squads, it's funny. I don't like to drive. I was always the runner. I still don't like to drive, and every once in a while I would have to drive. Every time I drove, we got in a foot chase. I would jump out and chase the guy because that's my natural instinct, and someone else would have to get out of the car, turn and get in the driver's seat and drive.
For instance, that night.
Yeah, I got a lot of those.
A lot
Yeah.
of them.
With the dirt bike.
Oh, yeah.
You got
Dirt bike, Gillespie.
Oh yeah.
Not the Academy one, but the other one.
Yeah.
And we.
I just got that.
Yeah. I don't
Totally
know.
different ball game.
I know. Cool dude right there.
I don't know.
C. Gillespie.
Yes, C. Gillespie. He's the same rank as I am.
Yes.
We worked together for a while. Every once in a while, he's like, "Damn it, Dave, I'm not driving today." And I'm like, "But dude, every time you drive, we get something good. And every time I drive, I jump out on somebody and chase them, and you gotta get in the driver's seat anyway." I mean, all the time. And I'm not even gonna talk about how many times I didn't put the car in park. So
Ghost riding the whip out, just drifting.
Yeah, you see it? Your natural instinct is to go.
Yeah, get him.
I learned
Go.
that one time with H. I'm like, yeah, you can drive, outrun. H was like, all right, no problem. We get into sand. Boom. By the time I hit the back of the car to get to, he was already gone. I said, yo, from now on, I'll drive. Bro.
yeah, I mean,
Clearly you're the runner.
I did that with Allison. I was gonna say
Oh,
Allison.
another beast.
Yeah.
Another beast.
So
Shout out to her.
And Alice is the problem.
yeah, so her and I, one day,
I respect her
Hell yeah.
a lot.
and for evidentiary purposes, this was within the policy back then. Before I continue, disclaimer.
Gotcha. My man.
We're driving around the chum, right? So this, I mean, it's late as shit, right? And we're coming.
My man, getting up. There you go.
You know. So,
Open this one.
so we're
Right.
coming up
You got it?
Montpelier.
Mm-hmm.
Montpelier.
Yeah, Montpelier.
Famous block.
That's the fancy block.
Fancy block.
Montpelier.
So this dude coming up with my ass like a beast, right? I mean, I'm like, what the fuck? What kind of rush is this? I was like, apparently he gotta be somewhere quick. I don't know.
He was driving.
Yeah,
And you in the marked car.
Okay, yeah. All right.
We were in an unmarked car.
I'm my car.
So
Okay.
back in the day, we used to get away with unmarked cars, and with no sirens. We had a little light bar, and you plugged it in the damn cigarette ashtray. Right? So you plug it on, and you click it on, red, blue, red, blue. You might honk the horn a time or two to like, hey, pull over.
Pull the fuck off!
I'm talking to you.
Talking to you! It's the police!
No bullshit. I'll get into the story in a second, but no bullshit. When I first got into drug work, we still had an unmarked Crown Vic with the solo blue bubble light.
Oh, shit.
Oh.
Whatever happened to those?
Old school.
Right.
The Magna whatever happened to those?
I don't know, but so anyway, so this asshole comes up on me. I pull over, he takes off, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna get this guy. Like, he's just being a dick. So he goes down Kirk, and then he comes down Homestead, and I put the lights on, and so I'm like, does he not see these? I mean, but then I'm looking around the street signs, and I mean, you see the blue. It shit's reflected off everything.
Right.
I'm like, this asshole sees me. Comes down to Harford Road, comes back up Montpelier, right? So comes back up, bangs the left on Asquith. When he goes on Asquith, he drives on the sidewalk. Jump back a couple seconds. At this point, I obviously know he is now trying to flee.
Yeah.
So,
Took a little bit, but yeah, gotcha.
So he gets on the sidewalk, takes out a sign, he comes across the street, boom, hits a parked car. He gets out. When he gets out, he falls, and his right hand comes up in the air, and in the shadow, his hand was illuminated. I could see a gun. So I get on the air, yell, gun, 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 gun. All right, so this is about 2014. And just, to give you a way of how policing's changed, now, pending, the officer, getting back up as a drug unit is kind of hard. At this time, I was told, obviously, because I wasn't there, it was during shift change. 11 o'clock, 10:39 is midnight. Charlie's shift getting off, midnight's coming on. 11 o'clock is when this happened. I was told Charlie shift and midnight shift officers were jumping in a car, 3 and 4 at a time, to get to me because they dropped a signal 13 on me, which obviously at this point is, shit's in the fan.
Yeah.
So, as I get on, I'm yelling, gun, 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 gun. This dude runs down the alley of Asquith and then to Montpelier, the rear of Montpelier. Me, knowing he had this gun, I stayed back a little bit because, I shoot decent. So I'm like, I'll probably shoot better than he can at a further distance. I don't need to be right on his ass, right? So he bends the corner. I come out a little bit and pie the corner, and I'm like, fuck, where'd he go? There were some trees and some shrubbery. He's hiding in it. So I'm looking at this point, and this is the funny part. That I said earlier, I was driving, right? So I get out and run. So at this point, Allison had to come around, get in the car, and drive. So she's hauling ass down the rear of alley of Montpelier, and he jumps up and tries to run. And around this time, I was almost 230 pounds. I was trying to put on weight. I was going to do a bodybuilding show, and I'm like, fuck, this is
burning like
right?
a motherfucker.
He jumps up, continues. She jumps out. I was like, fucking tase his ass. Without it, no hesitancy. Pop, freaky, gave him the ride. I was like, thank God. I was done. I was like, I'm back. And he pled to 10 years in federal prison.
Nice, good shit.
So
nice.
Yeah, that's one of the better ones for guns, because with shootings, Dre. I mean, we get dudes. You get a solid case on a guy. My first shooting, I cleared, closed. The guy pled to 50 years, suspended over 25. And those are the kind of things where you're like, you feel good.
Absolutely.
I mean, in the DDU world, even when we were in citywide shootings, I mean, it's so much work. So much work. It's so much work to close the case and then double the fucking work afterwards to get ready for court. I mean, in the trial prep and the follow-up court stuff, I mean, it's never ending. But then, when the dude, that case that I just referred to, not the gun case, but the shooting one, the first jail call the guy made, he was like, I gotta take whatever they give me. I'm fucked. And, you feel pride out of that. Even though, so we use the term real victim, right? I think the news actually talked about this a few weeks back, how we use this term. Because in the public, everyone's a victim, right? In the law enforcement world, if you're out there slinging and you get shot, you're not a victim. Especially if you had a gun on you and you were shooting back. you're damn sure not a victim. You're the loser.
Mm.
Hey, no harm, no foul, right?
Mhm.
That's the game they play.
Right. So, and if anyone takes offense to that, hey, I'm sorry.
It's all good.
You know, so that victim was a real victim. I had.
Real victim.
He was a real victim. He was. So you get you know, a lot of pleasure and satisfaction out of those kinds of cases.
Mhm.
So
And they come few and far in between.
few and far.
Absolutely.
When you get a real victim, I
Mhm.
swear to God, everybody's working to help
Oh.
that victim. That's a real victim.
Mhm.
Who's like, you know, like the poor guy that just lost his life, God forbid.
Yeah.
May he rest in peace. The gentleman that was carjacked recently.
Yeah.
Real victim. Has nothing to do, nothing. On his way to work.
Well, both of them. Yeah, the one in D.C. and the one we just had.
The one in DC. Yep. Real victim. It's like, I'm going to work my ass. I'm not going to sleep. I'm not eating, like, all hands on deck, because I want to bring this person to justice for that real victim who had nothing to do with none of this.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's different when you get a real victim.
It really is. Yeah. I mean, like, you don't feel hunger. You don't feel fatigue.
You don't feel nothing.
You got your eye. You're like a bull seeing red. You're just like, whoo,
That's it.
and you're going.
And you see it like when we were all on the floor, almost every other cubicle was like, what do you think about this? And we're gonna do that. And we're gonna it's like, yo, how long you been here? Oh, I've been here 2 days.
Yep.
Fam, go home. Go home.
I mean, I remember.
Take a shower. Come
Right.
right back.
I remember.
It's crazy.
I remember Tom and I, you know, and his silly ass. Yeah, shout out to Tom. And we had a case. Speaking of gentleman club earlier, prior to the start of this.
Your nicknames are hilarious.
Yeah.
I was at the Hustler Club reviewing cameras because I had a shooting on the block. At the same time, a shooting comes out on Aiken, and I'm like, they say it's police involved. So we're like, well, okay, first let's make sure everyone's okay. Number one. Number two, we don't have to handle it, right? Another person, a lady that you had on the podcast not too long ago, was chasing the vehicle involved. Long story short, they get him, get everybody. Well, about 3 hours later, after, we're thinking we're clear, they're like, nope, not police involved. Observed by police. Now, because of the operation, I'm not going to get too in depth on that part. Even though, the case is closed now, but still. We were at work for 37 hours straight. Working that. And because we closed it. So there's 5 suspects. And we closed it and we processed them, like an on-view arrest.
Nice.
And the crazy police officer that had his vehicle shot over during their operation stayed in process with us. And I was like, bro, like, you need to go home and like drink a beer or something, man. Like, you had a full-blown shootout over top your vehicle. Hey, you're more than welcome.
Those are the type of officers we have here. Like,
Yeah, it
when
definitely.
it comes to some real shit.
And so we finished that, and we were up in the morning for the next shooting, and thank the Northwest, they caught one for us, and we went right back out. I was like, damn, man.
It don't stop.
And so but then once we finished that, then the state's attorneys and stuff, they got a good night's sleep. They woke up and they're like, oh, them and the ATF wanted to have a meeting about the case. The 5-person case we just, closed. And we're sitting in there having a meeting. I'm literally getting messages from my lieutenant and sergeant ordering me to go home to get rest. And I'm like, well, I just can't up and leave the meeting,
Right.
But,
Right.
but you used to be able to take care of people like that. Now, you got work day, you got to put comp and stuff in. You can't
Right.
do that anymore.
Can't do that no more.
Thanks a lot, Bin Laden. Appreciate it.
My first shooting, I remember my first shooting was in Central District, 27 hours. First case.
Paychecks look real sweet, but
What?
It's a lot, man.
but there was, just like with homicide, there was a respect there. When you get on that elevator and you're in the suit, and you wear your lanyard, citywide shootings, whatever, they're like, all right, well, you're not homicide, but they look at you and they're just flat out like, how do you do it?
Right.
Like, I don't know how you do it.
Yeah.
And
It's
you're like, I don't know. I ask myself that all the time. And I mean, I've only been in DDU for about a month, but it's different. I mean, you don't feel nowhere near as like pushed. I mean, as you did down there. I feel. I mean, you can speak on that too. I just feel like when you're down there, like, because you got the homicide guys right there, so you're like running.
It's a huge competition.
Yeah, you're like running right along with them, and it's just hours and hours and hours. And then when you're in DDU, it's way more laid back. So that's nice, and that's with law enforcement. You got to find a way to be relaxed and be happy. I mean, there's shitty spots everywhere, and that's what I said about earlier. You find a spot where you're just, even if it's not the best spot, because like our schedule's not the best, but you find a way. Well, yours is better than mine. I heard about that, but
And y'all know my schedule.
He heard it through the grapevine, huh?
That shit is bad, and y'all know my schedule.
yeah,
My shit.
and I mean, you have to take the good where you can.
Right.
I mean,
And that's what I told Patrol. They're like, yeah, I want to come back to DDU, and I'm like,
it's not.
Are you ready for your phone
Right.
to be like on at all times because you're on call? Like, are you ready for that? Because in Patrol, you clock in, you clock out, and boom, you're out.
That's it.
They're like, are you ready for an ASA to be like, I need this now and now?
Yeah.
Are you ready for that on your day off?
Yeah. I mean, it's
It's
even
because
worse.
they see us, we're back there, and it's like, for me, for example, like I like to listen to music when I'm typing a warrant. To them, they're like, he ain't doing shit. He's just listening to music. Nah, fam. Like, it's way more cerebral. Like, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
It may not seem like we're busy, but all the DUs are working, man.
Yeah.
And I just thought of that too when you were saying that, because in a city that, I mean, it is what it is, that averages 300 and some murders, that means that there's almost double the amount of shootings.
Sometimes triple,
Yeah.
or if not, damn near. But yeah,
It'll be like
100%.
300 homicides and like 1,100 shootings with multiple victims.
It's
Jesus.
it's a beast.
Yeah,
So y'all,
it's all the time.
I mean, yeah, your phone's always on, and being a supervisor, serious ag assaults, not even just shootings, we have to go in for and other things, and even if it's something we're not going to go in for, if there's a patrol lieutenant or sergeant that's kind of giving one of my guys a hard time, I'm getting the phone call at 3 o'clock in the morning. Hey, Sarge, this is what the patrol has. We're not coming in for it because of this and this. Okay. But then I'm getting a call from the sergeant. Why aren't you guys coming in? Like, did my guy just tell you why we're not coming in? You want me to tell you the same thing? We still ain't coming in. But I'm still getting those phone calls. To the point where my wife's
This
like,
is what I got. And
Yeah.
then you're like, well, that sounds like a common assault. Why'd you call that?
you're like, wait, so somebody got hit with a piece of wood? Like, really?
they call you for
You know
that.
what?
You know what that is.
Charge accordingly, man.
Yeah, well, it's an ag assault. Man, okay.
What kind of city this is? You talking about hacksaw Jim Duggan? Motherfucker, you
Yeah.
got guns out here?
Yeah.
It's a fucking piece of wood.
Yeah. Like, my sleep number scores be all fucked up now.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I said I haven't slept since the surgery when I was on anesthesia because you can't sleep in DDU.
Crazy.
Yeah, I mean, but on the other end,
It's fulfilling.
it is, and the money's nice.
Money's great.
I mean, in a world where budgets are getting tighter, one thing that they can't argue is money from investigations. They can't, especially if you're closing them. So at least,
I don't think you can.
I like to live nice. I know these gentlemen like to live nice.
See, but you have a shitty schedule, but your budget's good. I got a decent schedule. My budget.
Basura.
So I was told we have the lowest budget in the city for DDU. However, not 1 minute of my overtime has been challenged yet. So,
My man.
Nah.
You're working.
what do you gonna say?
In the city with 300 murders, I don't give a what nobody say.
Right.
You can,
Working,
if
baby.
it was 25 murders, I'd be like, yeah, I don't see what
It
they
is
got
what
to
it
do that.
is,
Right,
yeah.
but it's fucking 300, 600 shootings.
Hey, yo,
Nah.
no bullshit. Like, there's a lot of talent in DDU.
Mm-hmm.
There's some monsters. Yo, Baltimore City has some monsters as detectives.
Bro, y'all down
There's a few-
250
there's one-
people
there's
doing
one
what y'all
that
do.
hasn't been here yet who comes, big bro.
Mm-hmm.
But there's one that likes to like remain out of the scene. You know what I'm talking about? In the Northeast, he's there now. Real sharp dresser.
Absolutely.
He is a
Monster.
and the big bro trained him.
Yeah.
And they're just two monsters. And I'm talking about when you talk about somebody that looks at a case
Yeah.
and just when you know he sits down, you know what I'm talking about. He sat down there, real sharp dresser.
Yeah.
But you know,
With the beard like me, bald head.
Yeah.
that one, he'll look at a case and be like you know in the Matrix. Same thing with Big Bro, but Big Bro does it like jokingly.
Yeah. But it's just with this one, he's smooth.
He's just
Smooth with everything. Under the radar.
it's like calculated. Like,
Yeah.
And you're like, how did you connect those dots?
Not,
But look, and then that day, and he was wearing this, and then look, and you're like, wow.
just imagine when him and Big Bro was together in the
Animals.
Northeast. Disgusting. And then you add Smoothie to it
And then you add
with
right,
Banger.
Well, right now that area, Northeast, has the #1 district. I mean, the #1 DDU spot with closures.
Well, I can see.
There's animals. My man, Banker?
Banger's a problem.
Yo, there's animals over there.
Wow.
We're #2, just saying. He's DDU #2.
I mean, we'll probably beat you here soon. Just once I get back up there.
I think I should put some money on it. Put some money on it. Put some money on it.
And
I
yo, but
mean-
there's some detectives on the west side.
Friendly bear.
There's a
Friendly
female.
bears.
There's a female, you know what I'm talking about?
Uh-huh.
On the west side, that she put you in that box, man.
You're done.
There's a female in the southern. You just look at her eyes and you're like, I'll tell you whatever I know. I'll tell you everything.
Everything. When you was 2 years old.
And those are
Took
like
that piece of
masters.
candy.
They're like, I consider them like masters.
Masters of the craft.
Masters in the interrogation.
Yeah.
There's some animals in this city when it comes to investigations, man, because they see you so much. Shout out to everybody in DU, the ones that do work.
Yeah. The data entry analysts can go pound sand.
Absolutely.
There's people that you go. There's a guy in his district, and like I said earlier off camera, you show him a nose, and he's like, I know him, and I'm like, it's a nose. He's like, watch.
He called me today.
Facial like, boom, that's your suspect. He's like, is that him? That's him.
Wow.
Wow.
Animal.
Yeah, he called me today. Sorry.
That sneakerhead.
Hey, Cleet, I closed this case. I'm like, well, how'd you do that? Well, I looked at this, and this is related to this, and this gun came back to this, this person lives here, and guess where their address was before that? Over here where the shooting was, and that's where they got picked up at. And I'm like,
Ah.
fair. Okay.
I remember he helped me with one
Sounds
case.
amazing.
I'm like, you keep talking, my beer's gonna get warm, man.
I remember one case, that same guy we was talking to. I was working a case in Northwest. Suspect finds out the victim says, I went to school with his daughter. Most kids don't have the same name as the suspect. He was like,
I feel like I know that.
it was in Northwest. It was, yeah, I think you was definitely there.
I definitely feel like I
Yeah.
remember that.
That was a good one of my. I went to him. I'm like, yo, this is what she says. This is what she looks like. This is where the area. Your man's looking at birth certificates. He's like, look, he saw her birth certificate. That's her father. I was like,
Wow.
how did you?
But you can't tell.
But you can't, because he's the type.
He won't shut up.
But here's the thing, like right now, if he sees me, he's like, you remember that case I closed for you 2 years ago?
In between his fifth and sixth cigarette, you're like,
I'm like this.
Right.
Come on, bro. Like, yes.
You did a phenomenal job. Thank you.
He won't let you forget.
No.
But he's a sweet, yeah, he's a sweetheart.
That's dope.
good guy.
So what do you see, 5-10 years from now? What do you see yourself? Is there any other units you want to get to besides the federal one?
You know, I always wanted to do SWAT, but you know, getting into the investigative side and stuff like that, especially being a supervisor now, that's probably not going to happen. The only other thing I can really, see myself is homicide. The federal any TFO spot would be great, but with homicide, like I said, with my grandfather having been there, and like I said, he's literally in the book. There's a picture of him in the book,
It's awesome.
standing over a body. And,
Wow.
you know, that would be cool to just carry that on. I mean, I've also had, you know, my other uncle did DDU, so I'm still carrying on the family legacy, but homicide is, you know, the epitome of investigations.
Right.
So that would probably be my best guess of where I see myself.
Nice.
Other than promotion, of course.
Yeah. I figure at some point I'll get to the sergeant.
If you two don't get promoted, I'll be mad.
Yo,
Yeah, honestly, I'm having too much fun with this podcast. I don't know if I'm ready for it.
Word.
Everybody that comes through said the same thing. So go ahead, Sarge.
It's
Tell
our
them.
schedule's gonna change, and it's,
Yeah, but I mean, you'll make it work for you. It
Yeah.
might. I mean,
It'll
think
make it work.
if you start back off the patrol, right? So 2 and 3, 2 and 3, it gives you time. Or throw a damn day. Getting a day off as a supervisor in patrol is a lot easier than an officer.
you know,
You know,
this podcast got me.
It's fun though.
I like teaching where I'm at. I moved up and I love it. Like
Yeah.
like you said, you move further away from the grind, but I love teaching people something because they like. So like we had a whole class today about drugs, and I'm just like, I'm gonna teach this to y'all when we leave. Like we don't have to.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
dope.
being a sergeant, especially on the investigative side, it's like being the secondary on a case, right? I mean, you show up, you get to be nosy, you get to have the fun, ride the ride, but you don't got to do any of the paperwork.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know, I do one thing, the 24-hour report, and that's it.
That's it.
And I gotta get on a phone call every day and just tell the bosses what we have. I mean, it's very easy. You know, it's back to one of those. You know, like when we first came out and shit hits the fan or something funny, you're like, man, I can't believe I'm getting paid to do this.
Right.
You know, it's like free comedic relief,
Yeah.
right? It's the same thing now as a sergeant. Like, I can't believe I'm getting paid to literally do this little bit of work.
I want to shout out my two sergeants, well, especially the one that I work for right now. He gives me full freedom when investigating cases, and not because of that, it's allowed for more cases to be closed because he's not controlling it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's like, hey man, and I'm like, he's like, hey, you think maybe we should look into this? And I'm like, you're right, I should do that. And that's what a sergeant does. Is like, did you look at this option?
Right.
Did you weigh this option out?
Right.
You know, instead of somebody's like, this is what you're gonna do, and you're gonna do it this way, and it's like, what?
Yeah,
What
no.
happened?
No.
You get so much better performance when you have so much freedom. So
No, that's how all my phone calls are with my detectives. I call them, hey, you know, what's your next step on this, or what did you plan on doing with this? Do we have anything on this? It's never. I need you to. The only time I've done that was that self-inflicted. That's actually your guys that we're working, and
I'm like,
it's done. But you know, there was a possibility that the lady could have had some mental health issues initially. We found out later that's not the case, but initially that was what was thought. So I went and was like, hey, I need you to go to the hospital and give the nursing staff a heads up. We may have a possible psych issue here. I don't think we got to do an EP with it. And they're like, well, Sarge. I was like, whoa, hold up, cat. Like, this is not up for debate.
Right.
You're going back to the hospital and you're telling the nurse this bitch might kill herself.
right.
That's all you got to do.
Right.
And that brings up an interesting point, if you don't mind, for the new listeners, right? If somebody of rank tells you, hey, you know, they're really cool with you, and they're like, hey, this is what we're gonna do. That's not 95 word. That's not. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because I feel like the line has been.
Yeah, I mean, people are quick to write on people, whether it's, you know, officer, detective, or an officer, detective on a sergeant, or sergeant to a lieutenant.
You gotta have thick skin.
I mean,
there's a point where you're like,
yeah, you know, one thing I learned when I was a sergeant in the military, again, going back to where you take some good, you see the bad, you develop yourself, is the way I'm talking to you guys is the way I talk to my detectives. I might cuss, but I cuss here, you know, but I talk in this, I cuss a lot, it doesn't matter. But, you know, I talk in this manner, and that way, if I'm like, hey, I need you to do this, you're like, oh shit, this is kind of serious.
right.
And then if I'm like, hey, we need to fucking do this now, you're like, oh, this should have happened 10 minutes ago.
Right.
And, you know, that whole cussing and, now, cussing, talking, but cussing at and, you know, screaming or berating somebody, that doesn't do shit. You know, and if you do it every day, it's going to get to, it's like how my daughter is my wife. My wife's crazy, and I'll tell her, you know, she's loud. She's from Dundalk, so she's loud, right? So, yeah, so she's loud, and there's times where she tells my daughter to do something, and my daughter's like, nah. But if I'm like, Mackenzie, you need to do this. She's like, oh, okay, Dad. She's like, I don't know why she don't listen to me. I'm like, you yell all the time. Stop yelling. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, to her, that's a normal volume.
Right.
And you do the same thing, especially with us. See, excuse me. In the military, you could join. I joined at 17. I was a junior in high school. I went to basic training between the summer between my junior and senior year. I'm still a freaking kid.
Mm-hmm.
At least coming on as a cop, you're 21, you're an adult. You know, you either had some kind of professional work experience beforehand or went to college. Excuse me. You know, you're not wet behind the ears.
Those Bavarian hops again, too.
Yeah. A little bit of that. So
that's from Superbad.
You know what I'm saying? Shout out to the very high.
So
Very
yeah,
high.
you know, so like I said, I mean, you at the end of the day, we're all grown men or women. Want to be spoke to that way.
Mm-hmm.
No one likes to be disrespected.
Absolutely.
And at some point, we could all say we've been disrespected on the job,
Right.
Yeah.
and it's not cool, you know. And I mean, shit. One of the guys that disrespected me, I'm very close with. He helped me, you know, get my shit together for the sergeant's test. But we had it out one time. We had an elevated discussion, and we're great. And so, I mean,
It
you know,
happens.
yeah, you have that
Mhm.
too. I mean, shit. The one day you and I butted heads right before I went to Top Gun because you were pissed off.
You?
Yeah, it was dumb. Like, not really butt heads. There was a miscommunication, but it was, I was going to Top Gun, and we had just gotten OID, and you were excited to be there. But we were rolling, like, super slow paced. And me having been in ops before, I was like, well, you learn to enjoy these kinds of things. Where you were like, what the fuck are we doing? I'm about to just go back to patrol. And so we talked, and because you thought I was talking shit about it, I was like, no, hell no. I was like, but you...
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I was like...
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was like, hey, man, like, if, you know, you want to go back to patrol, I understand that. And you're like, I don't, but what the fuck are we doing here? And then when I was like, look, some days it's slow as shit, some days you're boom, 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 and you're working 10 hours past, and you're like, where the hell? What just happened? You're like, all right, yeah. And
Yeah, I
then,
don't remember that.
He always been a fucking homeowner. Even when he came to Northeast. Just
He's ready to go, yo.
Just always-
He's ready to go.
True.
He's ready to go.
yeah, but,
Nah, there's always been love though. From the, yeah.
oh, yeah, no, that was just complete miscommunication.
I remember that. Yeah.
When you find your zen, yo? When you find your zen?
This car accident.
H, what you think, yo? What you think? Nah.
I love him.
That's a
Oh,
thing.
there, yo.
And to think that I remember when I was like, dope. When I was back in New York, oh my God.
It's even worse.
I can imagine.
I can even worse.
Menace to society.
As soon as I met this motherfucker, I was like, yo, this is my guy. Like, yeah, good dude.
I mean, a heat-seeking torpedoes.
Ready to jump off the rails.
Don't matter.
I mean, every time I see him back in the office now, he always seems relaxed.
He found his zen. He found his chi.
I love where I'm at.
But see, that's the thing. That's
But we have to go through that, you know?
you do.
And then, you know, there's been conversations, like that conversation. He's pulled me over a couple times, like, yo, fam, shit. And people now don't do that. Kids now is like, what? You trying to talk to me crazy? And then they come back and shoot you. Fam, I was looking out for you.
Right.
You know, all the times he looked out for me. That conversation we had. Remember that thing with that sergeant one time? You was there for that.
Yes.
Me and him were cool now. And it's like,
I was speaking about the same one as well.
I'm sure none of the people talked about that. I mean, but it's like, you know, these kids now, it's like you can't tell them nothing.
That's why I need to
No,
move
I mean-
up, though, yo.
And even these new patrol officers, it's like, yo, chill. You just graduated. They're like, yeah, I want to go back to DDU. I'm like, fam, If you don't have 5 years on in patrol, you don't know nothing.
But, you know,
One kid was like, let me just say,
Look at-
one kid was like, yo, I want to go back there. I said, how many search warrants you? He's like, none. I said, so why are you coming back here? Because if I'm on a shooting scene, right? If I'm on a shooting scene, and it's like, hey, this is happening right now. It's a red brick building with a green door. I need you on that computer, like, typing that warrant.
like ASAP.
I can't. We don't have time for like. You gotta go by. Like, what we doing? What?
Right.
Where you from?
Yeah.
Because it's happening. Like, you want to get that investigation. Like he said, when it says it, when he said it goes 37 hours, it was 37 hours of
Work.
Nonstop.
So
I need this warrant. I'm calling this judge. I need this car warrant. Oh, there's a DNA warrant involved now. I need that written up.
so
You don't
can
have time for like some 6-month guy on patrol.
can there be a
Yeah, you can
minimum?
be back there, but
A minimum what?
Like, can there be a minimum of like certain things? Like you all are saying. So like from doing the show, like if you were to listen to all of the shows and compile the information, you could pretty much say like it's a minimum standard for you to be. So if I'm coming in fresh out of so on and so forth, H talked about training. So I know like before I become a police officer, I have to go through training. That's the minimum standard for me to meet to do certain things. I have to shoot a certain thing for me to have my
yeah.
gun and the
That's in the
same
academy.
thing with, but same thing for what you're saying. Like, dog, if you've not done a warrant, you shouldn't. It's no disrespect, but you just won't.
Right.
I won't know.
So
that's academy talk. But here in Baltimore, you know what makes us better than most? You're not considered a rookie until you complete 5 years. A rookie in any other town is 1 year. Fam, Baltimore, you gotta give me 5.
So on average,
That's a difference right there.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. To answer your question a little bit more textbook.
Thank you for cleaning that up. I appreciate it.
Well, no. The textbook answer is most positions require at least 2 years minimum
Gotcha.
to go to a specialized unit, whether that's DAT, DDU,
Right.
whatever, even downtown.
Mhm.
Now, as far as performance, like there can't be an arrest quota because that's against the law.
Right.
Search warrants, this and that, are preferable, not a requirement to go to these positions. Now, sometimes in the interview process, if the question is approved by the Department of Justice now, due to our consent decree, they will ask things like, have you written a search warrant? If you have, what kind, how many,
Okay.
you know, what is the most notable case you have been a part of? What was your role in it? What was the
Gotcha.
outcome
Right.
of it?
Right.
They will ask things like that. But, you know, back in the day, your ass wasn't going nowhere if you never got a search, if you never wrote a search warrant
Right.
patrol. And it is difficult. I mean, especially running calls, but it requires the overtime. It
Yeah.
requires the effort. And the new generation, there you might find. I'm just thinking the Southeast, for example. You might find 2 or 3 out of 30.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, that are willing to put forth the effort. So
And those 2, they don't even want to go back there.
yeah, and when it comes to like the district action team, people are so worried about getting indicted, due to certain politicians and their aggressiveness. You know, so then the pool, you know, is it's hard. There's
Gotcha.
no pool. So like back when we all first started,
We're
5
hungry.
years, like if you like I busted my ass and I got into a drug unit with a little over a year on, which back then was I put a lot of work in. I was told at 7 months, hey, we're trying to get you upstairs. 6 months later, they finally did. To the point to where I stopped. I was like, fuck this shit, I'm done.
That was me for the academy. I had an interview 3 separate times in like 3 years.
Yeah.
And the supervisor, my man, he said, yo, put your 70 in, bro. He said,
RG?
Yup. It's my
Great
guy.
guy. Great guy.
Great guy.
Amazing, dude.
Love that man. And he said, yo, put your 70 in.
Let me get a watch, bro, by the way.
Right.
I know,
Hook
right?
us up. RG.
Send some this way. Shit.
Alright. And like I've been through it already. I said, yo, 3 separate times I went for an interview. I did the whole thing, whole 9 yards. I said, yo, Sarge, yo, I'm good on Adam shift.
So
Remember that one? We put it together and I gave up.
yeah.
So to piggyback on what they're both
I
saying,
gave up. I was like,
one of the biggest selling points about Baltimore City Police, besides the amount of overtime you can work, even with the budget cut, the amount of overtime you can work, is you literally have the ability to do anything you want in law enforcement.
Mm.
Every unit is available.
Mhm.
The problem is, the fucking stars have to align for the shit to happen. For instance, right? I owned a horse, all right? So I was very, very skilled, well, relatively skilled, I'll say, proficient on a horse. I interviewed for the mounted unit. They wanted 2 of us. I came out number 2. The guy that beat me, his family had a horse farm. Fair enough, right?
Right. Go figure.
Yeah.
he's probably got it.
Right,
Both
fucking
of
one
us.
on Preakness.
Neither of us ever went. They'll interview for positions, and you'll get these phone calls, these text messages from people in the unit. Hey, man, your name came up, blah, 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 blah. It sounds as good as gold.
I'm going through it right now.
Never happens. Yeah.
Wow.
It literally just happened to me with another unit. Yeah. Well, no, probably, but at the same time. That's the problem.
That's right. We spoke about it.
Uh-huh. So, I'm not saying it because who the hell knows what could happen.
Exactly.
But,
Right.
but yeah, the opportunity is 1,000,000% there.
Yeah.
For it to actually go through
Mhm.
is a freaking miracle.
Wow.
And I got the 72 on.
Mhm.
I went through the for the 3rd time. Went through the whole process, everything. Golden. Okay. I'm back. I'm back to Adam shift, doing overnights on patrol. So I come in one night for roll call. 3 of the supervisors, they looked at me. They said, Horton, what are you doing? I said, I got roll call. I'm here for work. Now the order came out. You got to report to the academy 0700 hours. You got to be there in about 6 hours, 7 hours.
I ain't tell you.
See you later.
Yep. Happened to me.
Jeez.
When we were in
I'm
the,
looking real dumb.
I'm sitting there like, huh?
yeah, when we were in the Northeast, when we got transferred to OID, I was on paternity leave, or whatever. My wife just had our sex trophy, and
Yo, him and Hoy go back and forth with the slang lord, yo. He got his whole album, yo.
my wonderful
Slang
daughter,
is impeccable.
Absolutely.
and
Slang is impeccable. Slang is impeccable.
and so yeah, same shit happened, man. I was down at Charles Street at the Fed building with the ATF. One of my gun cases, and I'm down there, and next thing you know, it's a Friday or a Thursday. It's a Thursday. Friday. It doesn't fucking matter what day it was.
Yeah,
It was going to the weekend. I get a call from TB. Hey, you just got transferred. You're getting transferred to OID. You're gonna be in my squad. I'm like, okay. When's this effective? He's like, Sunday. You report Monday at what were we working then? 10 to 6. Yeah. And I'm like, all
So
right.
where you at now? I think that's what we reported, right? No, we reported to the southeast, and then drove to the
to the barn. So I'm like, all right.
eastern.
It was the Eastern.
It was the Eastern.
So I'm like, all right. Well, what am I supposed to do for the weekend? He's like, you're off the weekend. I was like, well, I'm supposed to work. He's like, not now. You're off. And I was like, okay. 10-4.
See you Monday.
Damn.
So I came back and I was like, hey, just to let you guys know, I got transferred apparently. It was 2 days. Now, this came out on March 9th, but it was effective the 7th.
Yeah.
So they're a little bit better with it now. Now they'll put it out on Fridays. It'll be effective that Sunday.
That's Sunday, yep.
But
Yeah.
back then, I was like, wait a minute. This was effective 2 days ago.
Right.
I don't
Damn.
even remember my call. All I remember was like, this is your office. And it was like, the jail cell's my office?
So we went to the bar and then we had a nice spot.
Yeah.
Except they ain't got no damn cell phone service.
Yeah, right.
The hell?
I switched over to T-Mobile for that 1 year to switch back right back. What the fuck?
No cell phone service.
No cell phone. But my first office was a jail cell.
You know what?
It's funny because some other guys, that's their only office right now.
Yeah.
And then, thanks to them, we're the one.
Yo, but that's
But
the
that-
type of shit we deal with.
But thanks to them, that unit that we were in
Yeah.
got disbanded.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is what it is. Like, people laugh. They're like, oh, what unit were you in OID? And I was like, well, it fucking changed like 3 times.
Yeah.
At first, we were like Eastside Violence Reduction Team. And then, I don't know what the fucking one was. One of them was literally Gun Trace Task Force. There was 3 squads. And the way they did it, one lieutenant ran Gun Trace Task Force, including the fucked up ones. Because it was just easier.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one ran Ceasefire. Whether it was Eastside, Westside Ceasefire.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one was Gun Trace Task Force.
Mm.
So I was on that side.
Right.
So I always mess around with the attorneys because I'm like, hey, you know some of my reports, where it says command, GTTF is on there.
Lucky for me, that's on the other side.
Yeah, you were. But another disclaimer, I had nothing to do with those guys.
Absolutely.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, I always turned away from anything they were involved in. But
No, but that's just the way it is on these certain departments. But man, all you guys in patrol, man, just learn the job, man. Like I know the same call repeatedly is like, but we went to the same calls, and that's what happens. Complacency. Like one day you're gonna go to that call, and it ain't gonna be that dude that you always go to. Hey man, just take your medicine. He's gonna wig out, and it's like, oh wait a minute.
I mean, look at the 2 officers in Hartford County. God bless their souls. I mean,
Right.
it was just a normal, hey, 1-for-1 with a crazy guy call, and
Shit went left.
yeah, way low.
Way left.
Like learn, embrace patrol.
Just keep your head low, man. There's light at the end of the tunnel.
Learn the
Like-
basics, and the rest will fall into place.
That's it.
I still say patrol's the spot to be.
Patrol's awesome. You just got to put your time in. That's
You
it.
just gotta put your time in. I got it.
I get it. In the year you want to go to another unit, chill out, learn the job. Those other units,
But it's like they come to
Openness
like
will come.
DDU or something like that, and then they realize, wait a minute, I'm actually working
Harder.
a whole lot more.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Harder.
I mean, it's administrative. You know, it's
Mad
not. It's not.
administrative.
It's not physically per se.
It's
other
not
than
just one report.
staying awake, but
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is like, we have multiple reports to deal with, right? We read reports all day,
all day.
and we're putting them in the system. No, we're putting the reports they give us in the system, and you only wrote 1 report today, and you're home right now.
Mm.
I'm still dealing with this, dealing with a shooting from 2 months ago. Like
So being in patrol is definitely more physical, and then
It's more
once
physical,
you
yes.
once you
You're
start to
pushing the
move
car.
up, it's more
Yeah.
the analyst. So you got to
So-
really think, and
it's a whole
Be more
getting out of
strategic.
the car, going back in the car,
Yeah.
getting out of the car, going back in the car.
it's more investigation
When
as you
you're by
start to move up.
yourself.
More analysts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
When,
mean,
when your time is right, you'll be, you
Mhm.
Yeah,
they'll
when
be
you talk-
grown.
Word
I'm
up.
so happy you said that.
Everybody, time comes, man. Don't rush it. Like after my first year in the street, I applied for DDO,
Mm-hmm.
and they asked me every question. I only could give them what my experience was.
Mm.
oh yeah. They
So-
asked me-
Right?
my DDU interview, not this one, but before as a detective, my DDU interview was more in depth than my citywide shooting interview.
Mm.
They gave me a map with some scenarios about carjackings. It was like, what's the pattern?
Wow.
I was like, whoa, hold up.
Yeah. Time out.
Like, I was like, I just thought I could show up and look cute in my suit.
Right, man. Like I got my phone
Yikes.
memos on, man. I'm trying to.
he was killing the game.
You know what I'm saying?
Killing the game.
He
Okay.
was in a drug unit. He was in that unit. He used to show up in front of guy and was like,
Chilling.
doing?
Chilling.
He's like, hey, today's a good thing.
I wear it to work now. They're like, shit, case is getting closed tonight.
These are my lucky shoes. Those are your lucky shoes.
Thanks a lot to TB for making me buy those.
Right. He's like, yo, these are my lucky shoes. I'm like, right on.
But see, I knew I wasn't going to get it. And they was like, well, what made you want to? I said, I want to get the experience.
Right.
All right.
At least let me come see what it's like. The interview process.
Mhm.
I know what I got to touch up on. I know I ain't have enough time.
Mhm.
But I saw the open. I said, "Fuck it, let's go for the interview."
Mhm.
They bust out laughing. They said, "We're not laughing at you. We're just laughing at. It's amazing to see you do that."
Yeah.
So the lieutenant, it was the lieutenant and 2 sergeants,
Mhm.
and they said, "So next time we put out for this thing, this opening, we want you to nail this. So know this, know this, know this. You know what I'm saying? They give you
That's
gems while you're there
That's dope.
because they see you got a year on.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the thing. When they post, if you're interested, you gotta put in because there's a chance if you do not, you might not ever
Might
get
not ever
there.
get there, yeah.
Because you're like, well, shit, you didn't show interest last
Yep.
time. What the hell now?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, like what
It's funny you said it. Yeah, we say that
yes,
every
just
level.
wanna get out of patrol.
Because they see
Right.
your face.
Mhm.
They see your hunger. They see
Mhm.
your interviewing skills while they talking to you. They dissecting everything about you. What comes out of your mouth? Did you bring a resume? How many motherfuckers went to a interview without a resume?
Right.
Even
that
if he
again.
doesn't ask for it.
Right, bring it.
Yeah. Yep.
Bring it.
Absolutely.
That can make the difference.
Absolutely.
Those are
Absolutely.
little things that like stand out for sure.
Yeah.
Helps your career.
Yeah.
But with all that said, man, we love Baltimore City. We love what we do.
Oh yeah.
Sarge, you got any shout outs?
Just want to give a shout out to my family for being supportive and my older family for paving the way to set me up with a good career I can be proud of. I can hang my hat on and just all those that help guide me along the way to be the person I am.
Awesome. I'm glad you're here too, bro.
Oh yeah.
And keep doing what you're doing. Your leadership shows, man.
I
Amazing.
appreciate it. Love you guys.
Love you more, bro.
Yeah, right back at you.
All right, folks. It's episode 69. I'd like to thank my brother, Kincaid, for coming through. Been knowing this man for over 10 years now. Same academy class. Dre was, 2 classes behind us, but we all served the same thing
Oh, yeah.
over 10 years. And it's going to be fun for the next 10 years. But that being said, stay safe. Take care. Work hard. Dre, what you got?
Peace and love, and listen to me, Mr. Moore, in the background talking about Baltimore.
All day. Triple C.
Yo, just everybody just stay positive and stay out of trouble.
That's it. All right, people. We love you. Enjoy your weekend. Be safe.
You ever heard this song?
I like it.
Fire! Booyah!
Sir.
Amazing.
Phenomenal.
Good shit, baby.
Dope.
Awesome.
Phenomenal.
Dope.